Welcome back to Coach Factory. In today's episode, I have an interview with Justin Janowski. Justin teaches Christian coaches how to better sell their coaching services, and he has built a pretty incredible coaching business himself. I wanted to ask Justin a number of questions about what he's doing and how he has found success. It didn't come overnight, but when he got everything lined up, it happened fast. This is a fascinating episode. I know you're going to learn a ton about coaching, running a coaching business, running a coaching community. It is so full of gold. I'm just going to jump right into my interview with Justin Janowski. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today. We've known each other, for about a year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and we met at an online event, and I was just so impressed with just how you carried yourself, the integrity with which our conversation kind of transpired. And then we became Facebook friends. And then now all of a sudden, just through serendipity, I'm part of your coaching group, and you have an amazing coaching group. And now I'm super excited. So
Thank you
I would,
so much.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird how it all came together. One of your coaches that's in your group invited me as a guest, and I'm like, I know Justin. This is so cool. And when things like that happen, I'm like, I need to pay attention. So I am really excited to interview you today and learn more about your coaching journey. And you have a very interesting journey.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started with coaching and just kind of where things were in the beginning? How did you decide that this was the path that was right for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on the show. I first was introduced to coaching in my early 20s, late teens. I was selling Cutco kitchen knives, and I went to a direct sales conference, and Hal Elrod spoke from the stage, and he was a coach. And this is the first I'd ever heard of coaches outside of sports. And he really inspired me. And I said, man, I want this guy to be my coach. And so I remember like going up to him after and saying, can you coach me? And he said, yeah, I can do that. It'll be $700 a month. And at the time, I was like, what? Like, it was such a huge number to me, but I was also single. I had a credit card and very little inhibitions. So I said, I'll do it. And I hired him as my first coach. And then after that, I thought, I want to be a coach. And I
Yeah.
launched my own business. And I made one sale of a paying client. I had one free client. And I promptly went out of business. And 3 years later, I hired my next coach. And I once again thought, oh, I want to do this. And I tried again to launch a business, and I made 3 sales this time. I was earning about $1,200 a month, and I went out of business, and I got a job working for another coaching organization. And I learned how to build a system around sales and marketing. And I just really learned a lot about business and being an entrepreneur. And after that experience, I decided to try a third time. And this time I had a completely different experience. I collected over $250,000 in revenue my first year in
Amazing.
business. And we've worked with over 1,000 clients now. And God's just been so good in rewarding this journey. But it was a couple failed attempts before I figured it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches go into it because it is such a passion, like you described. They go into it because they want to be of service. They want to be a part of someone's transformation, an experience that lights someone up to who
Mhm.
they really are and the meaning they bring to the world. And you forget that in order to do that, there's a foundation of business underneath it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Most people just want to coach and help and serve. And then they realize, oh, no, I have to sell. And that's a scary idea for a lot of want to be coaches.
Right. And was that part of it scary for you, the sales part of it?
I've always liked sales. I was in sales when I was 18 years old selling Cutco knives. And so I always thought that was kind of fun and thrilling to a certain degree. But when it came to selling myself and selling my coaching, it did feel scarier because I like a lot of insecurity and question whether or not I was good enough. I had self-doubt. And so from that standpoint, it was a little bit scarier than anything else I'd ever sold. And that's why I needed to learn how to do it well and get the repetitions, and then the fear part kind of went away.
Yeah, for sure. It's much easier when you have a product or somebody else's service or something like that, where it's something that you believe in and you can put yourself into sort of that space. But as soon as it's like it's about you, it's a little scary. Tell me a little bit, because I've experienced that. Tell me a little bit about how you got out of that.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think it was repetition more than anything else. So when I worked for that other company, I held thousands of sales calls. And I got my repetitions in. I practiced the process. I got really confident with how to lead a coaching-based sales conversation that was actually really transformational and valuable to the other person, whether they bought or not. And once I got really good at doing that, I was scared doing it for myself when I left to start my own business, because I had that insecurity, I had that self-doubt, but I just did it anyways. And sometimes we have to do it scared. And
Yeah.
after a handful of opportunities and making my first few sales, I became a little bit more confident. And then as I had more success, I became a little bit more confident. And so my confidence was growing on the job. And I think that that's kind of the way we have to do it. We just need to get the repetitions in, put ourselves out there. And I think I had confidence that I had a strong offer, and that I was selling to the right people, and that I could help, and I knew how to sell. And I think that that's the part for a lot of coaches that's tricky, is they don't know what to do on a sales call, and they imagine it's going to be this kind of icky thing that they've experienced with other people where sales doesn't feel so good. And so because they don't know where to start, they just don't book calls at all, and they never get the repetitions, they never develop the skill, and therefore never get the confidence that they'd like to have.
Right. I think a lot of coaches too, they think when they're selling their service or they're selling themselves that it feels like disingenuous, or they feel like maybe a rejection is a judgment of them, but it's not really, is it?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I think the first thing to realize is, if we're doing sales the right way, we're not really even selling ourselves. We're just coaching the other person. And, I believe that sales, when done right, is just coaching with an invitation at the end of it. Ultimately, we should be asking questions about where our prospects are at, what their goals are, and then what they want to accomplish, what the biggest problems are that stand in the way, and if they want to commit to solving those problems. And so for me, like 90% of the sales conversation is about the other person. And if we identify a problem they want to solve to help them achieve a goal, and ultimately get to a place where they say, yeah, I'm committed to solving this problem. If we've got a service that can help, we just have to say, hey, can I share with you how I work with my clients? I'd love to help. And at that point, we're sharing our offer, but it's not like this big overarching pitch. We're just helping them find a solution to what they've already shared with us on the call. And I think it feels a lot different than like show and tell, or how am I going to prove myself on this call, or share about myself. It doesn't have to be about me as much as it's about them. And they learn what it's like to be coached or to work with me based on the nature of how I lead that conversation. And that's going to be the reason why they want to work with me, not because of something, impressive I say at the end of the call. And then to answer the second part of this around the rejection piece, I do understand that people oftentimes have assigned like this personal feeling of rejection or pain when they hear no or judgment. It just doesn't have to be that way. Ultimately, when people decide, it has very little to do with us. It very often just has to do with them and the situation that they're in, the circumstance they're in, how committed they are to achieving their goal or solving their problem, where they're at financially right now, what kind of support they do or don't have from their spouse. There's so many reasons why somebody does or doesn't make a decision, and very little of it has to do with the coach. And it's not a personal thing. It's just a business decision that people are making for themselves. And I think that if we know how to respond to no, and we get the repetition and the practice of responding to no, it gets easier. And so I'm teaching my clients to, when they get a no, to just tell people that they understand it. It's okay. And doors going to be open for you if you ever change your mind in the future. I'd love to work with you when the time is right. Before we wrap up, can I pray for you? Or before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or anything else I can help with? And if we know how to lovingly respect the other person when they say no, they'll likely lovingly respect us when they say no.
That is so beautiful because you're taking it out of sort of what maybe sales gurus tell you, or the sales methodology of this is the right way, and you're really putting it in sort of a framework of two people having a conversation where one is in service to another. And that's beautiful because that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. Sales, when
Yeah.
done right, is service. It can be generous, it can be loving, it can be kind, it can be really good. And I think people have these stories that sales is going to be pushy and it's going to be painful and it's going to be unfair to the other person or dishonest or greedy or any of these other types of things. Then whatever somebody else's hands isn't what it has to be with us. With us, sales can be service. It can be whatever you assign it to. And as long as we have the right intentions and we show up committed to creating that experience for our prospects.
Right. And I think that's where reps of just practice make so much sense because then you make the sales process It's not the book, it's not the process that you learned from someone else. It becomes uniquely yours. And
Yeah.
it's even prospecting becomes uniquely yours, and the experience of your life rather than the way it's supposed to be. Like everybody should throw those books out, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's value in having a process. You know, we teach our clients a 10-step sales process. So it's nice to have bullet points and kind of know the direction you're going to go in the call and how to lead a conversation to decision. But it should be more of a conversation than a script. And so, yeah, if people have received like scripts and objection handlers, and when they say this, you say that kind of training, oftentimes it's not appropriate for us, and it doesn't honor our values, and it doesn't honor our personality and the way that we want to show up for the other person. I think that conversationally we should have an idea, like kind of bullet point wise, where we want to go and how to handle certain situations. But ultimately we should just be having a conversation with curiosity and helping people make the best decision for themselves.
Right. For a new coach, I know you work with a lot of coaches, and they know they want to coach. They're in that stage of like, I'm excited about this. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. And they're just like, I'm the coach. But a lot of what you teach is about making sure you have two things, a clear person that you're serving, but also a clear offer. Can you talk to me a little bit about how important that is?
Yeah, this is so important. We're going to struggle to make sales or even have the confidence and courage to book sales calls until we have the right business design in place. And to me, those are the two kind of first things to think about: is who is our most ideal client? What problem are we solving for them, and why does it matter? That's what we call the mission statement. Ultimately, like when we figure out who specifically we want to help, we can speak directly to that person. When we clarify the actual problems we're going to help that person solve, and we make sure that they're problems that that person's willing to pay to solve, and we understand the end outcome of helping that person solve that problem, that's the why it matters part, then we can articulate to people what we're doing, why we're doing it, who it's for. And we can ultimately create a statement that says, I help who, do what, so that why. And it's a simple mission statement, but if it's well aligned, it becomes the foundation of everything else we do in business. And our ideal client should hear what we do and say, oh my gosh, that's for me. And then everything that we do online should reflect that mission statement. And so for me, my podcast is called the Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches podcast. It tells everyone immediately who it's for and what it is and what problem it solves, and why people should tune in or not. And the great thing about a podcast title like that, for me, that reflects my mission statement, is most of the world's going to say that's not for me. Most of the world is not a Christian coach looking for sales strategies. But that means that the people who do fit are going to say, oh my gosh, that's for me. And that's what we want our mission statement to do. Once we have that in place, then we need to design an irresistible offer for that most ideal client, something that we know can help them solve their problem, that is a total win for them and a total win for us. We like to say win-win or no deal. It's got to be a great win for our clients. It's got to be a great win for you, the coach, because you're the only person who's going to be in your program forever. If we've got a well-designed signature offer that can really help people, and we know exactly who we're going to help and what problem we're going to solve, and we're solving a problem that people are willing to pay to solve, now we've got the foundation of an offer that can actually sell and a business that can grow.
It gets straight to the heart of how important clarity is when in any business, but especially in coaching. Now, did you start out wanting to help Christian coaches, or how did that genesis kind of come around?
Great question. I didn't. I actually started out working with Christian entrepreneurial men. That was my first mission statement. And I was helping them win more at work, at home, and in their faith. So as entrepreneurs, I was working with them on sales. I was working with them on business leadership. But we were also talking about like the familial relationships. We were talking about how to be better husbands, how to be better fathers, how to engage our faith in these different aspects of our lives. But it was a pretty general crowd of entrepreneurs with shared faith. And that was my initial business. And after having success my first couple of years in that business, some of those entrepreneurs wanted to run coaching businesses themselves or were coaches already. And they were asking me, how'd you do this? And I started working with them and training them on how to build the business. And I realized it was really fulfilling to me. And that through all the coaches I could help, we could impact so many more people. And so I decided to narrow my niche even further and say, okay, Christian entrepreneurs was awesome. Now I'm going to work with Christian coaches. And that way, all my examples could be specific to them. And we could really zero in on solving a select few problems that they were facing that would unlock the opportunity for them to reach their client bases. And now I'm helping coaches who support people with all kinds of different things: health and fitness, marriage, business, marketing, their faith, a number of different topics. And it's really fulfilling for me. So I felt like God maybe had that in mind, but there was a couple steps to the process. And so if somebody's out there and they're running a coaching business and it feels like it's the right thing for phase one, but they're not sure it's the right long-term fit, the answer is just go for it, give it your best, and then know that you can make a pivot later.
For sure, for sure. How did your business change once you pivoted into helping Christian coaches?
Yeah. Biggest change was we started working with men and women instead of working with just men. And that for me has just been a little bit enriching of the community. Like, I like having men and women in the community. I love a great men's group in a coaching program or a great women's program, specifically depending on the topic that we're serving people in. Those can create safety and be wonderful. But I love working with men and women. And then at the same time I was making this shift, like right after I decided to make this shift, 2020 happened. And so I'd been running like a lot of in-person retreats and a lot of live experiences. And in 2020, we shifted to more online experiences on Zoom. And so there were changes there as we started to run online retreats and online challenges and webinars. And so the way we engaged new clients or found new clients and the way we engaged the clients we had shifted a little bit at that same time that I was zeroing in on focusing on working with Christian coaches. And then, we were bringing men and women into our community. So that would just create a different vibe and culture to the whole thing. And then I suppose that the third thing that shifted a bit was we started trying to figure out how to scale in a new way and reach more people beyond like the relationships I had. And so we developed membership programs and things like that had month to month recurring revenue. And so there were a number of different business shifts, but overall the heart of Faith to Influence still felt the same. It was still about the
Yeah.
same value system of treating people with respect and love and caring for people and showing up and doing our best and honoring God and all the things that we do. It was just a little bit more narrowly focused. I think the truth for me was trying to take on fathering and marriage and business and sales and faith. It was a little too big and a little too broad and a little too heavy for me at first. And so narrowing in to a specific focus has allowed me to really bring my gifts forward in a more meaningful way and allow others to give theirs.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. When did you start the Christian Coaches Academy, this very passionate group of coaches that you have?
It's 2 years ago. Actually, this week would have been when we started selling it. We offered it. We're recording this Thanksgiving week. I don't know when this will go out, but 2 years ago, Thanksgiving, we started selling it, and we launched it on January 10th of 2024. So in January, it'll be 2 years for the community. It's interesting. I had been running high ticket programs for a few years, and I'd held hundreds of sales calls for Faith to Influence. And so when I decided to offer a lower ticket, Christian Coaches Academy is only $75 a month, and I'd been selling $5,000 and $10,000 and $15,000 offers primarily. So when I came out with the $75 a month program, I just started texting everybody I'd ever had a conversation with about Faith to Influence and sending messages and inviting people to new conversations and sharing the vision of what we were building. And we were able to launch with 80 people in the membership on day one of January 10th because of all the relationships that had been built over a few years. It was probably 4 to 5 years we were running our business before launching the membership. And all of the relational equity that had been built made launching this really special and really fun. And it was cool to see the people who wanted to be a part of it. And we've continued to grow. And it's a fun community. We've got a little over 120 Christian coaches who are a part of it. And it's about prayer and relationships and community and training, but more through kind of a library than a live environment. And we just wanted to create something that anyone could be a part of that didn't have to have such a financial weight to the decision.
Yeah. And it's so funny because one of my LinkedIn contacts who I had a call with was like, "You're going to love this group." And I go and sign up for it. I'm like, "Wait, this is Justin." And it was so funny how I got introduced to your group because I like knew you and what you were doing and everything, but I didn't know about the group.
Yeah.
And then I show up and you have such a passionate, these people are excited for their weekly call.
Yeah.
It's just, you can feel it in the Zoom room. Like, and then you do these little breakouts and you can just tell everybody they're looking forward to it. How did you create that? Because I know a lot of coaches are like, I know how important community is, but I'm a little scared to get into it. What if nobody shows up? What if it doesn't sell? But this is infectious, what you've created.
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
Thank you. Thanks for saying so. We're really proud of that community and love it. God did a lot of the work, but intentionally, I think there's a few things that happen. One, I do believe for most new coaches, depending on what your goals are, of course, but for many new coaches, starting with a higher ticket offering or mid to high ticket offerings before having a low ticket membership, I believe is really helpful for just the culture of like your relationships and community. So I worked with fewer clients at a higher price at a deeper level for several years before launching this membership where we're aiming for scale and to get more clients involved. And so when I was working with maybe 10 or 15 or 20 clients at a time for the first few years of my business, I was building really deep, meaningful relationships. And it was only with people who were willing to invest at a high level to be part of the community, who are really committed to their goals. And so I met so many amazing people. And then when I launched this membership, a lot of those same people were like, "Oh my gosh, we spent $5,000 or $10,000 before. $75? That sounds great." And so they joined, and there was a foundation of people I already had a relationship with, who I had worked closely with, who I knew were amazing people. And so that initial foundation, I think, was really helpful in bringing the right people together. Now, the other thing, I'm going to come back to the mission statement again, because it's a narrow niche. It's all Christian coaches. There's a natural, like, kind of shared value system. Everyone's working towards similar goals and trying to solve similar problems. Everyone's facing the same entrepreneurial roller coaster or challenge, and everyone's got a shared faith. And so there's so much in common that it's easy for people to feel seen and supported and understood by the other members. That's part of the value of narrowing the niche. Versus if I was just like doing a sales training for any person who wanted to learn sales, there wouldn't be as much common ground probably. So I think that common ground really helps. And then there's the structure of the calls. And so you and I were kind of talking about this before we clicked play today, but I've got a couple of programs. One is Sales School for coaches, and in Sales School, every week we run a live training, and it's a master class. I'm teaching. I'm doing a lot of the talking on that class. And then we do like a Q&A afterwards for an hour, either with me or with their peers in a small group. And so it's more of a training based call. In Christian Coaches Academy, it's different. It's more intentionally a relationship building call. And we always begin the call with what we call praise reports. And we actually do the same thing in Sales School. So we still have the community vibe there, but they all have access to the Christian Coaches Academy too. So they can come to the relational call. But we do like 20 minutes of the hour. We're just taking praise reports. We're just having people share the good news of what's happened over the last week. So when somebody makes their first sale or launches their book or their podcast, we're all celebrating them. We're hearing it out loud. We're complimenting them or congratulating them in the chat. We're always like, "Hey, post your book link in the chat." And people are like supporting each other or buying the book and, listening to the podcast episode or whatever it is. And so there's this community culture of like celebration and looking at what's good and thanking God and praising God and supporting each other and cheering for each other, encouraging each other. And so that's really valuable. And then what we do in that call after that, we do some announcements, and then we ask 3 questions every week. And they're always 3 different questions, but the questions are going to allow people to consider themselves and their business and where they're at and where they want to go and how they got here. So they're really introspective. And we give people a few minutes to journal, and we put them in those small groups. We do Zoom breakout rooms with 3 or 4 people per room, and we let people just go in the rooms and answer the questions. And by getting into that small group and answering these compelling questions about business and life, they get to know each other, but they don't have like the awkwardness of networking where you're trying to figure out, what should I say? Instead, you have very clear direction. You're going to answer these 3 questions. And I think that really builds deeper intimacy amongst other members of the group. And then they come out of the small groups and we come back at the end and we have prayer requests. So there's time for people to share the hard stuff, what's painful, what's hurting. So, the good stuff is shared at the beginning. Some of the challenges or adversities or pains are shared at the end. We bring it to God and just pray together. And in the middle, we have that relational opportunity. And the final thing I'll share that I think is relevant here is that we really encourage people to have what we call coffee chats. So we've got a directory for all the members with contact info and booking links. And we encourage people to meet somebody new on Zoom every week and just have conversations and pray for each other. And so people have gotten really close through all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, it is really well done how you've got things structured. And I just kind of followed just the fact that it was such a synchronicity of how I knew you. I'm going to interview you. And then someone else, I'm like, okay, this is how God communicates when something like that. It's kind of like, hey, Kathy, pay attention. This is important. So I'm like, all right, I bite. I'm going to bite. I'm joining Justin's group because I feel like this is and it was such a great experience, that small group, those people I've connected with. I've got coffee chats set up with a number of people from your group that it's just, it's such a well-designed program. And I just want to give you so much credit and so much praise that you've done it this way, because you're really living your talk, because you are being of service. And you're not necessarily like, okay, you two talk to each other, but you're like creating the space for sort of this kind of magic to happen. And I think it shows up with how everybody feels about it and how everybody supports each other in the group. And I just think it's really well done.
Thank you so much. Can I share one more thing that I think?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so this might sound like funny to people who are hearing this, or so simple or so basic. But of course, when my programs were first starting, I remember having like my first 6 clients who joined my first group program. And of course, when everybody got on the Zoom call, I greeted everybody by name. I said, hey, John. Hey, Jared, thanks for coming. Hey, Tom, good to see you. And, when it's a small group and only 3 or 4 or 5 people are getting on the call, like, you just say everybody's name and you say hello to everybody when they come into the call. And so as our groups got bigger to 10 or 15 or 20 people, I just kept saying hi to everybody. And now we have had calls before where we've had 40 or 50 people on the call. And I still say every single person's name when they enter the call. And I've gotten a lot of compliments on this, which tells me how much it means to people and that it's rare. And it, to me, seems like it's appropriate because I want people to be seen. And so I think sometimes when a group gets bigger, the way we've been able to like allow it to remain close is when groups get bigger, oftentimes people feel like they're lost in the group. And,
for sure.
Of course, we're going to have people who don't show up to the call and they might not feel connected. And that's a reality of having a larger program. But whenever somebody shows up to the call, whether it's their first time in the last 4 weeks to be on a call or they're there every single week, I greet every single person by name. I just say, hey, John, good to see you. Welcome, Kathy. I'm glad to have you here. And hey, Chuck, good morning. And I literally say every single person's name. And even when people are late, like we're doing these praise reports and shares, in between praise reports, I see, oh, here's the 3 new people who jumped on. And I just say hi to each person. I want everyone to know that they're seen when they're on the call, that they're not anonymous, that they're important, that I know that I see them. And I think that makes a bigger difference than it might sound like over time. There's a cumulative effect, especially for the people who might otherwise not share out loud, might otherwise not feel seen, or maybe are a little bit more shy or reserved. For them to hear their name, know that they're cared for, know that we're happy that they're there, I think makes a big difference too.
It does, because so many people are interacting online, whether they're in a live stream on YouTube or commenting on Facebook. And a lot of times your comments or your interactions are just kind of lost in the scroll. And so to have a small group, you're identifying the fact that you are valued here versus some of their other online interactions is such a great distinction to make, because you want somebody, if they're in your community, whether they're watching you on a live stream on YouTube or coming to a Zoom, you want them to feel like they're valued. It goes so far in establishing your brand. So I noticed that you did that, and that's amazing. That's really good. All right, let's ask some hard questions. What is the hardest thing that you've had to deal with as a coach or as a coach to coaches? What's been one big challenge that you've had that you've overcome?
Man, I know the first one that's coming to mind. I might want to come to a second one that's more common. But for me, the thing that immediately popped to mind, because my group has been growing, I've hired team members. And we've had oftentimes like clients reach out and want to be part of the team. I've had people offer to work with us for free in kind of exchange for programs or an internship, an opportunity to learn. I've had people that we pay a salary to. I've had people that we pay commissions to. And I've worked with a good handful of team members over the years, all of whom have really helped shape Faith Through Influence and helped us build the culture of the business. And the complexity of adding team adds a lot of potential challenges. And, for me, a lot of the most painful challenges I've experienced have been through team and in trying to scale and figure out like how to reach that next level. Things have come about in some cases where team members had certain value systems or beliefs on things that they were voicing really loudly that weren't what I believed. And we weren't on the same page, and like we didn't have the same vision for where the company should go or what the company should stand for, and we've lost team members, and relationships have been fractured through that a couple of times. We've had other cases where team members were hoping, starting out kind of small and like reaching out and say, oh, I want to do this, and accepting a salary or an internship. They wanted to grow or earn more sooner than we could possibly pay them sooner. We're at an interesting kind of messy middle as our business, in our business right now, where we're doing about $400,000 a year, a little bit more than that in business. And that means we've got enough revenue to hire people and to invest in ads and technology and all those things. But as we're making those considerable additional investments, we haven't yet like broken through in a really like booming way that creates a lot more profitability from the investment. I believe that we're on the right track and those things are coming. But there's times where I look around at like people who are wanting to be entrepreneurs, wanting to be coaches. They're joining our team because doing it all on their own feels difficult. And I just want to be able to compensate them really, really well and really generously. And we're trying to figure out, scale and figure out how to build the online funnels and figure out ads and things like that new coaches who are listening to this should avoid early on. There's no need to have that. You can have a successful lifestyle business and do a few $100,000 a year without a lot of complexity, without a lot of team, without ads, if you design your business the right way. And I could fall back on that, but I'm trying to figure out scale. And there's just been some challenges there in the relationships and like this desire that I have to care for everyone, and provide for everyone. And sometimes my desire for that's greater than my capacity as a growing business. And then the other thing I'll share, and I think this is important, maybe relevant for all coaches, is when I was a new coach, I really felt emotionally attached to my clients' results. And so I wanted to see them take the work that we were working on or the things I was teaching. I wanted to see them implement and get results. And many did. But when people did not, it really like hurt me. I felt personally responsible. I wanted more for them. I felt sad when people didn't show up to the calls or didn't get their money's worth. And I had to learn over time, and this is the value of repetition too, to just like let go a little bit and recognize where my responsibility starts and ends, and know that my job is to show up and do my very best. And then to let my clients engage the program, engage their coaching, engage the community the way they want to a certain degree. Now, there's an opportunity for me to hold them accountable a little bit. There's an opportunity for me to challenge a little bit and support and do everything I can to help and to lead. But ultimately, no one can do it for their clients. And so like learning to like let go and trust God and to trust each of my individual clients to go at the pace that they want to go at was an important lesson for me too, and has brought me more peace, but can still be a challenge occasionally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Are you now you're running a business. You're the entrepreneur. You're looking at budgets and ad spend. You're running a business, but
Right.
you're still coaching too?
I'm not doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. I mostly am I see myself as more of a trainer than a coach. And so I primarily focus on leading my group calls. There's 3 hours worth of group training calls I lead each week for our clients. I do work with some clients one-on-one in what we call private coaching, where I'll generally fly them out to Milwaukee and we'll spend a full day working on their business. Fly them out the night before, we'll go to dinner and hang out. And then the next day we'll go 9 to 5 and put all the pieces of the business plan in place, the sales strategy, the marketing strategy, work on the mission statement, work on the signature offers, the client journey, sometimes design keynote speeches or webinars or whatever it is that's appropriate for that ideal client in a
Yeah.
day. And then I do a few follow-up one-on-one coaching calls. But even in the training environment, in a group call where I'm not doing any one-on-one coaching, but I'm just training a group, it would bother me in the past when I was new if somebody invested in the program and didn't show up to the calls. But the recognition, of course, is that that's not my choice. And if they want to invest in the program and not show up to the calls, I got to let them do that. And I just got to show up to every call and do my best, and I think that there's value in just like the boundaries and the understanding of what am I responsible for
Yeah.
and what are my clients responsible for. And there's actual real empowerment there and like trusting them to make their best decisions and not trying to do it for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Boundaries. I noticed that in business, in any service business, especially, that boundaries and understanding what's your job and what's not, what's the client's responsibility and what's yours, is something that a lot of people I think struggle with and can really lead to a lot of burnout. How can people how can people really hone in on boundaries?
Yeah, great question. For me, I think it starts with our calendars. And so I use a digital calendar. I've got it color coded. It's Google Calendar and I set my availability specifically so that I'm not available at certain times. I'm really working between 9 and 5. I remember when my business was new, one of the things I thought I had to do was hold evening group calls because that's what my coach had done. And I resented those evenings. I did not look forward to Tuesday evenings. I wanted the time with my wife and my family. And I remember feeling so like frustrated going to those calls, which wasn't good for my clients either. And I had a moment where I just made a decision to start holding those calls Wednesday mornings during the day instead. And I didn't lose any clients. It actually worked out just fine.
Wow.
And so I've held all my calls between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, for years and years. It's very rare that I'll hold an evening call. When I first started getting introduced to the coaching space, the coach I worked with held their retreats and live events Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I remember being burnt out going into work on Monday after a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event and not having a weekend, not having a Sabbath. They eventually moved to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which was better. But now for me, when I'm running a live event, I'm doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because I want the time with my family. I'm going through before the year begins and I'm putting in family commitments. I'm putting in the personal things that matter to me in my calendar. I'm putting my kids' sports games in there. I'm putting dates with my wife in the calendar. I'm getting all the personal things that are important into my calendar first and then filling in the business around that so I can protect the boundaries of my lifestyle. I'm not asking a client when do they want to meet. I'm giving them my calendar link that has my availability between 9 and 5 Monday through Friday. And if they can't find a time that's available this week, they'll go look at the next week. And those kinds of boundaries all really help. If my calendar starts getting too full, I start putting in like pause, I block off 30-minute, 60-minute pauses, or I block off self-care blocks in my calendar to make sure I don't get overscheduled. And so to me, boundaries for my business begin with my calendar. And then, just a mindset that what's most important is my faith and relationship with God. Second most important is my family. After that, it's my team. After that, it's my clients. And so just knowing that order of priority, like I love all my clients. I love my team. I love my family and I love God, but I need to be able to prioritize the boundaries. And then we talked about it before, that idea of win-win or no deal. And so I don't
Mhm.
want to work with somebody unless it's a total win for them and it's a total win for me. And so I'm just trying to operate under that kind of expectation at all times.
Yeah, that's so smart. As you were talking, there's that whole adage of like when you get your paycheck, make sure you get paid first. Like
Yeah.
take your money, save it, and it's almost like you're looking at your time as what has been allotted to you, right, as an investment, and you are paying yourself first with your time. And I think it's just so smart to do because when you can do that, everything else kind of like follows. Once you set a commitment, you set that boundary, you set that importance and that priority, everything else will find its place. It's like the rocks in the jar, right? You put the big rocks in first and the sand will find its way. So I think that's so critically important. I don't think this is good advice just for coaches. I think every entrepreneur that I've ever met needs that kind of advice. So that'll
Yeah.
be a good clip.
Yes, I love what you said there. I absolutely love that you're paying yourself first with your time. That was
Yeah.
such a cool way for you to transform that idea. I love that so much. I think it's really important. And this isn't to say, like, again, I love all my clients. Like, I love everyone. I want to care for everyone. Sometimes I want to provide for everyone too much. But what I recognize is I can't pour from an empty cup. And so I've got to
For
make sure that
sure.
my cup is full and that I'm feeling good, because when I feel good, I do well. And if my boundaries get out of whack, I don't have enough family time, I don't have enough space in my calendar, I get over scheduled, I get burnt out, I'm not as good for any of my clients. And so it's as much for them as it is for me that I have to have those boundaries in place.
Makes so much sense. Is there anything, I feel like I have like 1,000 more questions, but I know I want to respect your time, because that's how you pay yourself. But I want to ask you, are there any things that you think coaches should know that I haven't asked you?
It's a good question. There's so many things. One thing I'd say, would it be all right for me to make an invitation to your group,
Yeah,
to your
for sure.
listeners? So if a coach is listening to this, we mentioned before sales. I know that, and this is the thing that's hardest for most coaches. So many coaches, and I guess this is the wisdom I'll share, is they get coaching certifications and they spend money and time and they invest in learning how to coach, but it doesn't lead them to clients. There are many people with 2 or 3 coaching certifications who are exceptional coaches, but they've got no clients, and so they're not actually using the certification. The thing that we need the most, the machine that actually creates the impact that we want to have, is we need to be able to make sales, and we need to be able to do it in a high integrity, loving way. So I want to just give everybody our sales process for free. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to make it really easy. You can just send a text message. If you go to your text messaging app and you send to the number 55444, you just type the word sales. Send sales to the number 55444. We will give you our 10-step sales process for free. And then I'll put you on our email list so that you can get our weekly podcast. We've got 150 podcast episodes on all the things I think coaches should know. We send out a sales newsletter each week sharing more ideas. And so I'd love to give those gifts to people, because there's so many different topics that I think are important for coaches. And you can get them all by texting 55444 and sending the word sales.
What a gift. And that will be in the description box down below on YouTube if you're watching it here. That is such a gift. Justin, you are an amazing human being. I am so glad that God put you on my path in so many interesting ways. And I am excited to learn more. You are wonderful. So thank you for coming on the Coach Factory podcast. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of tremendous value from this. So thank you.
My pleasure, Kathy. It was so much fun talking with you. I love the way you show up. This was a great podcast episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin.